Rocking with the best. Rocking with the best. Rocking with the best. Rocking with the best.
Looking so good on this Memorial Day weekend. It's week 2 of our series, Marriage Mixtape. How many of you guys were here last Sunday? Last Sunday, we talked about the importance of walking into a marriage with the same idea towards commitment, that everybody looks at commitment a little bit differently. You know, when we stand at the altar and we say our vows to each other, that we need to understand what that commitment means. And this week, week 2, we're getting into a whole nother idea that I'm super excited about. With it being summertime, that means the sun's out, it's bright, and so my wife Rachel has diagnosed me with a problem that she calls baby eyes. Baby eyes is that when I walk out of a building and the sun is bright, I am now disabled if I don't have sunglasses. Any other men like that? Like all strong and all the power, but if the sun's bright, I can't see anything. And so what that means is throughout the summer that I have to have sunglasses everywhere that I go. And so I have sunglasses in my truck, I have sunglasses in Rachel's car, I have sunglasses in Rachel's purse, I have sunglasses at the church, I have them in my house. I've got a pair of sunglasses everywhere because when it's bright, I can't even handle it. And so I put these things on to help filter out some of the light. The sunglasses, the reason they filter light is because they have a lens, right? There's a lens that I look through, and it affects how I see things. And I've learned in my marriage and in my relationships that my emotions are my lens, that my feelings are my lens, that what I'm feeling affects how I see things. The sunglasses, when you put them on, it doesn't change the brightness, and it doesn't change my eyes, but it puts something in between the two. And our feelings are the things that go between our mind and reality, and how we're feeling affects things. And so we're familiar with this. Everywhere you go, you can put on different lenses, right? If you go to a 3D movie, what do? They give you some of these little 3D glasses, you put them on, and it affects how you see the movie. Then you take them off mid-movie, and the movie looks kind of weird and out of focus because you've lost the filter. If you're in this place and you've ever welded anything, you know that you have to put on a welder's helmet, right? It filters out a lot of the light, and our emotions do the same thing. If we allow our emotions to not be under control of our mind, then we can start to think things and see things in different ways. And so sometimes we can start feeling angry. And we put on this filter of anger, and when we're mad, everything looks red. Everything looks like something we want to punch or hit or smash because we have this filter of anger. Everybody else can be happy and excited and energized, but if we don't guard our emotions, we can start to manage those things improperly. Or sometimes we can put on the filter of insecurity. And insecurity is a feeling. And when you feel insecure, when you don't feel confident, when you don't feel like you can make right choices or right decisions, it starts to really filter how you view things. If I'm insecure as a husband, when I'm talking with Rachel, it influences how I handle situations because my filter is not right. Or we can put on the filter of fear because we're afraid. Maybe you were in a previous relationship that the person you were in, they did some things that were wrong. And so now that you're in a new relationship, you're fearful that this new person is going to do what the old person did and see how that filter starts to affect the marriage that you're in. Maybe for you, you're in a season of being tired. Ever been there? Rachel and I, we got 2 young kids, life is busy, and so it's really easy to be tired. And when you're tired, that's a filter. That's a lens at how you see everything. And so the person who said something that offended you probably didn't mean it. You're just tired, and that's your feeling, and so it processes how you see the situation. You know, in life, we can have the feeling of loneliness. Have you ever been lonely? I talk to single people a lot of times, and they're in this season of loneliness. And when you're lonely, you start to look for relationships that you normally would have dismissed. Have you ever seen a girl and wondered, why is that girl dating that guy? Have you ever seen that? It's because she was lonely, y'all. It's because she was lonely, and so when you're lonely, you start to view people as an option that you normally wouldn't view. But the problem is when somebody who's lonely meets somebody who is horny, right? And so now you get the lonely person connected to this person, and this relationship never really ends up very good. And the funny thing is that this, though it's physiological, it's also emotional. And so we have to understand, why am I doing what I'm doing? Why am I acting how I'm acting? Maybe it's just an emotion. I hope you didn't take it. People are going to be taking pictures of me wearing those horny glasses and be all over Instagram. I already know it. Sometimes we put on this emotion of regret. We regret what we did. We regret what we said. We regret how it worked out. And so now we look at our wife with regret. We look at our husband with regret. And man, it really changes how we see the world when we're looking through this filter. A really dangerous one is offense. Man, it's a dangerous one. Because he said this, and I can't believe he said that. So now anytime he says anything, I'm looking through the lens of offense. And if you're looking to get offended, you're going to get offended. As a pastor, this is one that I experienced a lot. People come into Living Church, and they've been offended at another church. They've been offended by a pastor or somebody who did them wrong, and then they come in, and then Living Church makes, in their opinion, one misstep, and then now they're offended, but they're actually offended at somebody else, but we're taking it out on something now. And man, this is what happens in marriage. I know your mom or dad did something that they shouldn't have done, but that doesn't mean that's what your husband or wife's going to do. And so we have to be very intentional about not wearing these glasses of offense. And the only filter that we should be looking through in our marriage is the filter of love. That we would look at our husband, that we would look at our wife with some love, that we would throw off the offense and the frustration and the anger and the bitterness and the negativity and realize that love is our filter. The Bible says that love is patient. Love is kind. Love is not self-seeking. Love is not easily angered. That love is always faithful. That we would understand that we need to put on this filter of love in our life. For me, little fun fact about Pastor Trustin, I'm partially colorblind, just a little. And so when I go to the eye doctor, they give you those little tests to see if you can, where you are on the spectrum. There's like a circle full of a lot of little dots, and they're like orange and blue dots, and you're supposed to be able to see a shape inside the dots. You all know what I'm talking about? I can rarely see the shape inside the dots. Now, I know that my jacket is green, but the color that I see is probably a little different than the color that you see. And so because of that, I've had to learn that my lens is inaccurate. The way that I see it, I can't trust. And so now when I'm in conversation, especially when I'm getting dressed, I have to trust the opinion of my wife. I have to trust her eyes more than I trust my eyes, because I think that something's going to look fantastic because this gray jacket is going to look good, but that jacket is actually brown, and I just don't know that. And so I'll look in the mirror and think that what I'm wearing looks weird, but she tells me, no, baby, that's perfect. Sometimes in life you can't trust your own emotions because there's something wrong with the lens. But we always think that what we feel is king, but it's not. So today we're going to talk about how as a couple, how as an individual, how as a single person, how as a divorced person, how as a widow, how in this season of life should we process and navigate our emotions, our feelings to see life properly. But before we get into that, I want to show you a testimony of a couple that I know and love and how they've learned to process their emotions.
Hello, I'm Dee.
And I'm Lova.
And we've been married for 45 years.
We've been asked to talk about emotions and how it has affected our relationship and our marriage. And that's such a big, broad subject. When we were first married, I was probably the first 25 years, I was the more emotional one. I would get my feelings hurt. I would take to heart some of the things that he said, and he would say he didn't mean it to come off like that, and I was interpreting all of this, and my brain could come up with all kinds of scenarios.
In our younger years, our younger married life, I struggled with anger. I would get angry real quick, and I would spit words out of my mouth. I didn't really realize how powerful my words were at that time, and they would cut deep. I wasn't real good about correcting that anger, I would also say, before we went to bed. And I think I've learned over the years to try not to. Now, we don't do everything right. We still make mistakes, but to try to not go to bed angry.
I have a sharp tongue too, so when you added his angry to my sharpness, come back at it sometimes. It was not a good mix, and we've learned it's different, it's night and day. The things he likes, I don't like. The things I like, he doesn't like. And I think God does that on purpose because we have found that we complete each other.
And through the years, having healthy emotions has made our marriage rock.
So good. You know, I'm always so thankful when people are willing to share their story and their journey, because here at Living Church, it's not about being perfect, but it's about learning from the season that you're out of. And so thank you to Dan Leva for sharing that. So here's a question. How many of you have ever been confused by the feelings your spouse is having? Raise your hand.
Everybody's hand should be up in the room.
Everybody.
That is married.
All of us
Right.
have been there where we're kind of confused about what's going on.
Yeah, I think that our feelings and our thoughts can be different as different genders that we are, and so it can be confusing as we're navigating. I'm a woman and he's a man, and what do you feel and what do you think? You know, today as we're talking, we're going to be speaking in generalities and stereotypes. I know for me as a woman who kind of prides herself on being pretty logical and not super emotional, when I hear people speak in stereotypes, I can sometimes get a little bit rubbed the wrong way. But for the purposes of today's conversation, I hope you'll have grace and understanding and not be offended, but understand that we're just speaking in some round generalities to understand who we are as women and who we are as men.
Yes, that's so good. You know, he talked about them being confused, but how many are you ever confused because they're mad, right? Your spouse is mad, or they're sad, or disappointed, or they don't care, right? Or you're confused why they're confused.
Why are you confused? I don't understand what's confusing.
Right, but our emotions can be confusing sometimes, our own. I know for me, I'm like, why do I feel this way? I don't even understand why.
Right.
So that's a challenge in and of itself, not to mention trying to be a mind reader and understand her emotions. Yeah. That's a whole different ball of wax.
Well, you're supposed to try to do it.
Oh, I try. I try.
You're supposed to memorize my emotions.
Yeah,
You're supposed to be a mind reader.
You're supposed to know.
Right.
And so today we want to help navigate how we don't have to be mind readers, but how we can better understand each other.
Yeah.
You know, the Bible, it says this in Proverbs 23:7. It says that for as he thinks in his heart, so is he. That as a man or woman thinks in our heart, that's how we are. And we talked about this a little bit in our series, Above All Else, about there's this connection between our mind and our heart. A lot of times we say that we feel from here, that this is where we feel from, but the truth is that the mind is the mouth of the well to our heart. That the only way we start to feel something is if we started thinking about something. You know, your thinking leads to your feelings.
Right.
If you think about it, you're going to feel it.
Yeah.
But then your feelings lead to your actions. And so we spend a lot of time dealing with actions in relationship. Why did you do this? Why did you say that? These are the actions. But what we should really be talking about is not only what we're feeling, but what are we thinking that led to those feelings that led to that action.
Yeah, because, the Bible tells us that our heart is deceitful. In the Above All Else series, we learned the verse Jeremiah 17:9, that the heart is deceitful above all things and beyond cure. Right. This morning, Matt and Diana sang the song, Listen to Your Heart. You hear that all the time. Just follow your heart. You know, the seniors in the room who are graduating, I'm sure they heard it in somebody's commencement speech to just follow their heart. No, y'all, that's the worst advice.
Yes.
Right.
Anybody could ever give you. Our emotions are not trustworthy. Our heart will betray us every time it's deceitful. You can't follow it.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. So as you said, they are. The emotions are untrustworthy.
Yeah.
And so as men, we need to look at our emotions and say, you know what? We are not going to pay attention to what happens in our heart. We got to focus on our mind. And listen, men, we can be sometimes thought of as non-emotional.
Right.
Non-emotional. My wife has oftentimes said, I can't see what's going on in that brain of yours.
Yeah.
And I guess I'm a good poker player.
Right.
But the fact is, we do have emotions, and this non-action is an emotion.
Right.
It's a real emotion, and that's something that we need to understand. If we get mad, but not show it on our faces, that is an emotion.
For
We
sure.
need to understand
Sometimes men react in anger,
Absolutely.
and you're thought of because you're not crying, that you're not emotional, but your
Right.
anger is an
Right.
emotion
that.
too.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
That happens a lot.
We
with
think
us.
that the word emotion or feelings is pertain only to women.
Right.
But as dudes, we're super emotional. We just show it differently.
Yeah,
That's
in
right.
different ways.
You know, the Bible, it says this in 2 Corinthians 10. It says, we take captive every thought and we make it obedient to Christ. So Jeremiah tells us that our emotions, our heart is almost uncontrollable sometimes. Our feelings are just wild. But that we have the ability to take captive our thoughts.
Yes.
That we need to grab hold of some of these negative things and be intentional. You know, if your feelings are crazy, that's kind of because it's true. But the truth is that your mind is manageable. And so today we're talking about thoughts and feelings. And so we all want to understand it and have some questions for each other.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I think today we all want to just understand, how do our spouses' emotions
Yes.
work? We all
Yeah.
want to ask that. And I
Right.
think the best way to do that might be if you and I switch seats, so
Okay.
that
Yeah.
I got my girl, got my back while we
Boy-
talk
boy
about
couch,
how we,
girl couch?
That's
how
right.
we think.
Yes.
Get out of here.
That's
Come
good.
on.
Bro
Like
club.
that.
Okay.
So let's talk.
I got backup now.
Yeah, that's right.
That's why
It got
I'm
a
sitting by
little-
her. I got my back up.
They got a little sketchy in that first service.
Let's talk about this. How do y'all's men emotions work? Like your thought process and
there's a way.
your feelings. Tell us.
Okay. I think the best way to understand man's emotions, thoughts, feelings is this. That as men, we have all of our thoughts categorized. And so we have like a shelving system in our mind, and on every shelf are different boxes. And those boxes are labeled, and those labels determine the content. And so we have a car box, Bill's box, and a family box,
Yep.
and a time management. And we have a box for the kids and a box for you.
Yep.
And so there's these boxes, and when there's a conversation, we simply go to that shelf,
Yep.
and we grab the box, and we pull it down and open it, and we're willing to discuss everything in the context of this box, but all the other boxes are still on the shelf. They're in storage.
Yeah, it's true. I look at it, I don't know, I'm showing my age, but when you go to the library and you need to find a book, you have no idea where it is. Where do you go to? You go to the card catalog. They call it a Dewey Decimal System.
Right.
In my world. And so you walk into the library, you go walk up to this huge wall of drawers with labels on them. You slide open the right drawer, you find the right card, you pull it out, it has a bunch of numbers, letters on it, you look at it, you go find your book,
Yeah.
and then you find your book, right? That's kind of what we're dealing with here as men. We have all these boxes, all these slides and things where the right thing goes in the right box,
Right.
and you don't dare mess that up.
No,
You
don't mess it up. Don't
Don't
put
put
the-
that over in the other box. Don't do it.
No, because we think logically.
We do.
It's kind of how we think systematically.
Yeah.
And so when I'm done talking about an idea, I put the lid back on the box, and I carry it back over to the shelf, and I neatly put it back on the shelf, making sure that the box does not touch any other
We don't
boxes.
need them touching each
because that
other.
would lead to confusion. And so I put the idea back, and I think that that's kind of how our brains work.
Without a doubt. Yeah, for sure. Men, us as men, we're fixers. We try
Right.
to fix things when we open a box. We slide open, we open a box. We look in the box and we see what's in there, and then we try to figure out if there's a problem with it, how to fix it. That is how our brain works.
Right.
And so, with that being said, that's how we work.
We want to tightly pack it
need-
all back into the box
need to
and put
get
the
it
lid back on, and
put it away.
we've now handled this problem.
Okay, there it is. I hope that. Did you guys understand that?
Yeah, I
Okay,
think so.
now what we need to know, really, what we need to know
Help us.
is for you to explain to us how in the world all of this works. We need help.
Well,
Help
I
us.
think what you're saying is you guys are kind of simple. It all goes kind of in a box.
See,
And-
so she threw
And,
that simple
and
in.
maybe we
Simple,
are a
simple.
little more complicated, but if you
Okay.
guys are boxes, then I think we're like a ball of wire.
Yeah.
We're like a ball
Okay.
of wires where everything is connected
Right.
to everything. So
Right.
our kids are connected to our jobs, are
Yes.
connected to our relationships, are connected to our finances, are connected to our paycheck, are connected to our mortgage, are connected to
Right.
our parents and the way we were raised, and all the things are connected to one another. It's all, now don't get it confused. It's not chaos and
No.
It
disorganized.
sounds like chaos and
No,
disorganized.
but it's not.
It sounds like it. It's
It's
kind of
not.
scary.
It's
when you
just
think about
all
it.
connected.
Yes, it's our normal.
Yeah.
And so
like if electricity is applied to one area too strongly, then like another area could explode because like it's always going and processing, but it's all connected to one another. That's just the way it works.
right.
Wow.
So we're actually really gifted. God, the way God made us is real complex, right?
No, it's the way we're able to juggle schedules
Right.
and calendars, and the way we're able to make sure everybody gets their lunch and their schoolwork, and you get your stuff you need for work, and I get my stuff I need for work all at the same
Yes.
time. We're able to juggle because we kind of have our brains working all the minutes of
Non-stop.
all the days. That's right. It's
about
always
everything.
happening.
Everything touches, everything wires
Yes.
together, and you can rub something the
Yeah.
wrong way and short
circuit
some
something
areas.
else.
Yeah.
So basically, the exact opposite of how our brains
That's
are
right.
structured.
Yes,
Yeah.
except you're
Thank you.
fixers and we're processors. So that's why we talk a lot.
Yeah.
That's why
Right.
our stories involved all the details. God made us detailed. Like we
Right.
see details, we feel the details.
We need to know the details,
Yeah.
and we think you need to know the details too, but
Absolutely.
apparently
We know
you
that
don't
you-
Right.
always.
Oh, we know.
the details.
And you
So we
guys
know
have
that.
all your boxes organized and categorized, but we're multitaskers. So for us, because it's all connected, we can do a lot of different things all at the same time.
Yeah.
Wow.
And we're very gifted that we make things connect. See that?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah?
that's true. It is.
Yeah.
It is very gifted because that's something that's not as easy for us. But I think something they said is really important. That for ladies, you guys are external processors.
Right.
That's true.
That the way that you figure out what to do is by talking about it. But for guys, generally, we don't talk about it until we've already started to process it.
Right.
So the only reason I'm going to talk about my problem is to find a solution.
That's right. Yeah,
If I
we're
got a
looking for
problem and I'm
solution.
talking about it, I want to figure out the problem to it. But for y'all, sometimes you want to kind of talk about it
Yes.
And process it to get
and
to the
then
right answer.
someday, sometime,
Maybe.
we'll
get
figure out the
to-
solution to the problem.
We have a God-given intuition, and sometimes as we process it, we're able to logically determine that our intuition is correct.
That's true.
And
And
so
it really
we
is a
need,
gift.
It is a
It
gift.
is being
Yeah.
spirit-led into figuring out what
Absolutely.
it is. There's
Yeah.
countless times that my logic doesn't apply, and then Rachel, being spirit-led, comes in and brings clarity to my confusion.
Right.
Because logic can't always figure it out.
Correct.
So to kind of get an overview, as men, we're logical fixers, problem solvers,
Yes.
and we're fueled by what makes sense.
Yeah.
But the ladies, you guys are saying that you are process-oriented, that you're detailed, that you're multitaskers, that you're kind of fueled by what you feel about a situation, what's your intuition, what's God really saying
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
this. So
Okay.
what do we do as husbands to navigate those thoughts, those
Yes.
feelings, those wires? How do we navigate
Well,
that?
I think the first thing that you can do is to be willing to open more than one box at a
Right.
time. Because
You hear the amens of the ladies in the rooms? They're all like, uh-huh.
That's a scary thing.
No, it's
to
true
hear.
because you might not know and understand that they're connected, but everything's connected. And so we need you to open all the boxes, or at least all the boxes that pertain to what we're talking
Yeah.
about, so that we can help you connect what we're connecting. We need you to understand our wires, and we don't need you to try to untangle them. Because again, it's not disorganized, it's just connected.
Right.
And so we don't need you to try to untangle it, we just need you to understand it.
Yeah, that's good.
Does that make sense?
Okay. I
Yes.
think so.
It's not always easy.
No, it's not.
But after, Rachel and I have been married a long time now, and so I now have learned what wires connected to what thing.
Yeah.
And so the more that she helps me understand that wire's connected to this thing, it helps me.
Yeah, I think
learn.
another thing you can do to help navigate our thoughts and feelings is to remember that our brains are always working.
Yeah.
That sometimes we're thinking about today, tomorrow, and next week all at the same time. And we're even thinking about yesterday and last year all in the same conversation. And so our brains are always firing and wiring, and it's a little bit like pew, 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 like that sometimes.
Yeah.
But if you can understand that, then that's why we process and move so quickly through things when maybe you're still pulling the box off the shelf.
Yeah.
Man. Ouch.
I mean
You see how she worked that
I
in?
see how it is.
I
man.
didn't
We're
mean
tag
it in
teaming
a
here, huh?
pun.
And that's
Wow.
new from last service.
It was new. That was not said in the first service, y'all. That's a bonus. That's
Okay,
a bonus.
what else?
I was being spirit-led.
Let's move on. Let's move on.
Man.
Another thing is, we just need you to listen.
Yeah.
You know, you mentioned
Okay.
men are fixers. A lot of the things that we're saying do not need a solution. You
Right.
just need to listen
Okay.
In logic brain, it needs a solution.
It needs a solution.
But for y'all in
We
your
need to tie
process,
this
Right.
you're saying
Yes, absolutely.
You're saying that we don't need to try to fix it.
No, so we just need to be heard.
Right.
We just need to get it out
Yeah.
because we're processing. We're coming up and with a solution as we're talking usually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we just need the time to be heard. Make time for us to talk.
Yeah.
And listen to the details. And you listen to what's important because there's a lot of details, y'all. So listen to what's
There's
important.
a lot of details. That is true. There's always a lot of details in the conversation. That's what I always walk away
Yeah.
with.
Yeah.
A lot of
Yeah.
details. Yeah.
But I think we as
Love
ladies
you.
have to understand something really important. We have to be wise to understand when is the right
Yes.
time and what is the right place in order to have a conversation.
Well, learning for us, when was the right time for me? Now, Trustin was a youth pastor, and on Wednesdays were his full day. And so when we first got married, he would go into work like 9 in the morning on a Wednesday and wouldn't get home till like 10:30 because, youth group, they stay up forever. And so whenever he would get home, I'd already been home after work, processed, made dinner, and was ready to talk about everything he did all day.
Because she hadn't seen me all day.
Because I hadn't
Right.
seen him all day. And so for me and him,
But after preaching multiple services, even back then, my
Yes.
brain was fried.
Yeah,
I was done.
I'd be so excited to know all about his day. And so I'd ask him, hey, how was your day? What did you do? Da-da-da. Here's my day. And his reactions were he was just dead, like brain dead. And he was trying to talk, and he'd sometimes fall asleep on me. And, that doesn't go over very well.
Right, as newlyweds.
And so I would feel offended, and I would be like, he doesn't want to talk to me, and all the things, the wires, and so what we've learned in the season that we've been growing together and figuring it all out is that you got to know the right time and find the time to talk, because. It's not fair to him, it's not fair to me either, that if we're both exhausted and we're trying to solve the problems of the world, trying to hear all the details, then I'm mad at him because he didn't listen about my day and the details and he can't remember. Wisdom says find the right time to talk. So Thursdays, he would go in a little late and we'd spend time together and talk.
Catch up.
And catch up.
You mentioned time, I'll mention place. There's a right time and a place for everything. When we were first married, I was flight instructing, flying 5, 6, 7 hours in a day. So I would come home tired, similar to what you did on Wednesdays. And when I would come home, we would eat, and I would get into bed. And that was when Whitney chose the opportunity to talk to me when we're in bed. Now, men, there's 2 things you do in the bed, right?
Two purposes.
Two things, and neither have anything to do with talking.
Right, yeah.
Neither,
Yeah.
okay? For me, when I get horizontal, most of the times when I get horizontal, man, I'm out. Lights off, I'm done. I'm gone. And so what's happening is she's starting to talk to me, and I'm trying to catch on and
Doing your
understand.
best, yeah.
Man, there was things that I did not hear, and I
Right.
didn't remember, and she expected me to, and it wasn't there.
No,
I mean,
so we learned
nothing.
that we had to have the right time and the right place
Right.
in order to have a conversation.
Yes.
So I think for us, that's a good way that you can help. But what do we as wives do to navigate the thoughts and feelings of y'all?
Okay, so we're boxes, y'all are wires. What
Yeah.
do we do? What can you do to help us understand?
Yeah, what can we do to help navigate?
If you guys could explain the wires to us in the
That would
moment, that
help.
would really help. Like for me,
Yes.
I've got an old Jeep. If I'm putting a new wiring harness in the Jeep, it comes with a diagram.
Yep.
And so I know that the orange wire goes to the fuel pump and the green wire goes to the starter. I know where the wires go.
Yes.
And so when in moments of conflict, help us understand the connections.
Yeah, okay.
Because it's not that we're not stupid. It's just that we don't get it. We
No, we don't.
don't understand how these 2 things that logically in our minds don't have anything to do with each other, how are they connected?
No, that's exactly right. And so when you're talking to us about your friend at work in a situation you're going through, but you're really wanting to talk about the fact or thinking about the fact that she's going to retire and how does this affect you and your job responsibilities, but that doesn't get brought up, we don't understand that. We need to find the root meaning and the root understanding of what you guys are really talking to us about.
And so, in the moment, ladies, as you start to feel something different than maybe the idea that's on the table, help us to understand. so that we can run over and grab that box and we
Yes.
can take the lid off and be like, okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
we got
right.
it.
We got
Yeah.
the box. Help us help you.
So don't get frustrated with you, is what
Yeah.
you're saying, because we didn't remember the detail of the past. Just,
Help explain
help it and say, hey, remember I said that?
Yeah.
Or remember how I was brought up?
Yes.
That is real sensitive to me.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
good. Yeah,
That will
help
be
us
very helpful.
put connective
All right.
force. I think another thing that's really important, man, I hope you get this, for ladies for you to understand is that as guys, we have a box that y'all do not have a wire to equate to.
Listen, y'all.
We have a
Serious.
box called the nothing box.
Nothing box.
We have a box in our mind that gives us the ability to think about
Yeah.
nothing.
That's right. There's
And-
science that proves it, right?
Yeah, there's science that proves it. There's a study done by the University of Pennsylvania, and the University of Pennsylvania told us that they would take a man and hook wires to his head and lay him in a chair and tell him to not think about anything.
Right.
And guess what? Beep. Nothing. They'd be like, is this dude dead? And he'd be like, huh? Like, he's not dead. And so we really have the ability to think about
It's amazing.
nothing.
It's true. Those things come in the form of going fishing,
Yeah.
hunting, right? Going hunting, sitting in a hunting blind, just sitting, chilling, working on cars. I could tell you whenever I work at an airport and run airports, there are days that I just look out my window and think, I wish to God I could be put on that lawnmower and just drive for hours. Just drive, turn the thing off up here, turn the brain, and just drive.
Right. As men, we have the ability to have our body doing something
Yes.
and our brain not doing anything.
Yes.
And so I know it's just confusing. I know it's confusing.
It's confusing.
And so I think for us to just understand that we have a nothing box.
Yep.
And so when you ask us, what are you thinking about? And we say nothing, we really aren't thinking about anything. We're not.
We
we're
have
not
the nothing
stressed.
box opened and out.
Yeah.
We have the nothing box open and out. And so what the women in the room need to understand is that when we're in this nothing box and they're wondering, y'all are wondering, what are you thinking about? What are you doing? And then you guys wonder, well, can I get into this box? Can I find out what's happening, what you're thinking in your mind? No.
No.
You can't get into the box. This is a nothing box and it doesn't have anything in it.
Right.
So you can't get in it, and when you try to get in it, we're going to tell you to get out of here because we need to have our nothing box.
Right. And
But
Just
what's
saying.
in it? What's in the nothing
But
box?
what? But
And
yeah,
it's
we don't
nothing
get it.
mysterious.
you
I
know
need to
what's
say
in
that.
there? Peace,
Yes,
calmness,
there is.
and like a little bit of just reflection
That's
and
right.
like preparation. And
Yes.
Yeah.
And people
So
need
you're
to,
saying it helps you.
It helps us.
it
The
helps
nothing
us.
box helps us.
But what you need to understand also is that there's nothing mysterious in this nothing box. There's nothing that we're trying to hide in this nothing box. There's
Right.
nothing fishy or strange. There's nothing to be worried about. It's
Yeah.
just sometimes we just need to unplug
Right.
and unwind.
We'll be driving somewhere, and I'm just driving. And when I drive, I go straight nothing box. Like it's soothing to
Yep.
me. Right?
Don't
I'm
need
driving.
music, don't need
No,
words, don't
just
need
driving.
nothing.
Aaron and I will drive somewhere. We don't have to say nothing. Just driving together.
So when
right?
we get back, my wife says, "Hey, what'd you guys talk about? What'd you trust to talk about? Nothing.
Nothing.
Nothing."
And
She's
so
like,
we'll drive. We'll be going somewhere, and Rachel, I'll be driving, and she'll say, "What are you thinking about?"
Yeah.
Nothing. And you know what she says? I can see you're thinking about something. I can see it on your face. I can see you're thinking about something on your face.
Yeah.
Like, no, just let me think about nothing. Now, guys, I've got to tell you this. You're not allowed to live in your nothing box forever.
yes, there's a balance.
So this is not like your excuse to watch 4 football games on a Saturday.
No.
You can watch a football game on a Saturday. This is
Yes.
not an excuse to go golfing 4 days a week.
No.
Like, so our nothing box is important, but we can't abuse that and say, I'm in my nothing box.
Right.
Now you're being lazy.
No, that's
They're being
true.
lazy.
That's true. You know, there are times that Whitney and I are talking with each other, and she'll get to going. And anybody who knows my wife, she has a motor that runs at high idle.
Yeah.
And so she can say all the words and not even take a breath. It's amazing. It's really amazing. But listen, if I've not spent any time in my nothing box for quite a while, and she starts going after it
Yeah.
with the words,
Okay.
man, smoke starts coming out my ears, and I start blacking out. I can't keep
So
up.
you try. It's like we try to pay attention and get all the details.
Oh, yeah, I
No,
try.
I've seen this happen. You know, I'm married to a man, and then I work with a lot of men here at the
Yes.
church. In fact, preparing for this today, Trustin and I were walking through the outline, and we had a lot of ideas that we had brainstormed, a lot of things we felt like God was telling us to share, and we were trying to put it all together in the right flow and the right outline. And I was doing what
we do. I was processing it. I was writing it all out. I was talking it out. I was like, okay, but we could do this, and then this will be good, and then move this piece right here.
At
and
very
then say it
high
like
idle. Like, whoa. Level 10.
Watch it.
And I'm there trying to get it all logically placed
And so
into
he's
order.
like trying to like decipher it all, and I'm just talking it out. And then all of a sudden he said, "Hey, Whit, it's like not a big deal, but like, could you just give me like 5 minutes, like just 5
Right.
minutes?" And so
I know what that means.
had
I know
to,
what that means.
I chose, like, I wasn't offended because I understood. Oh, yeah, he needs a minute. Okay, and so I just left and came back over here and got some more coffee, so it was good. I had time for me. He had time for him. And then in about 5 minutes, he texted me and said, I got it. Come back. Let's figure it out. And from that quiet, reflective moment, I guess.
The flow of this conversation came together.
Yes.
But it only could happen if I could just have some peace for a minute and not all the ideas and wires buzzing.
Hey.
Just let me get the boxes lined up.
It was helpful for me.
And
it
so,
just wasn't
ladies,
helpful for you.
yeah,
Right.
I think ladies, to understand that we can't be your girlfriend.
Right.
No, it's good.
No.
I can't be
happen.
Rachel's girlfriend
Right.
because I don't think that way.
Right.
And so it's super important for her to
Yes.
have girlfriends.
Well, yeah, Trustin's not gonna, he's gonna love that I found a great pair of shoes, but he's not gonna.
Because I love you. I
Right,
care.
right, because he cares.
Right.
But he doesn't care that I walked up the stairs and there they were, and this lady was looking at them, but I grabbed them first and I got them on sale. And could you believe it?
Oh
We
my-
have
and then
the
I
same
went and
shoes.
I ran and got the same ones,
Right.
and then we matched. Oh my word!
So all the details, although they're
Yeah.
important, you need to find somebody that's your community, your
Yeah.
friend, the one that he does care because he loves me. So he's gonna listen to it, but you're not gonna get the same feedback as you would with your community. You need girlfriends.
You need girlfriends.
You need the community.
For
You
sure.
find
And
that.
I think we've learned that, like I said, in working with men, I've learned that when we are, though, talking to one another, that we need to, ladies, work on not saying 5 words when 3 will do.
Right.
We need to learn how to kind of take a deep breath and just say a few less words than what we were saying
That's true.
before.
Earlier on when we were dating, Whitney and I were dating, I went over to her house. She has 4 women who she grew up with and a father, 4 women. I grew up with a brother and a dad and a mom. So 3 men, 1 woman, 4 women, 1 man. And so as I went over there to see her during the week and date her, they all talk. They all talk a lot. And so I was struggling to keep up with all of the words and all of the conversations. They're talking over each other. They're adding in. And I finally have this just blanked over look on my face. And she's looking at me like, nope, he ain't here. Something's going on with him. And it's just because there's just so much talking. And, there were 23 words when 3 words would do. And so what was happening is we couldn't keep up. And us as men, most of us, that's the way we are. We can't keep up with that kind of thing.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so just help us.
Wait,
with
how
that.
long is this nothing box time? Can you give us a timeline? Like, how long do you need?
Depends on the season.
It depends on what we're doing in there.
That's right. That's right.
I think that something that's really important for us that Rachel and I have learned is that in the middle of conflict or in the middle of an argument or discussion, for us to have like a timeout moment.
Yes.
And so if we're in an argument or like heated debate or something, I have to go, what am I feeling right now?
Right.
Because my feeling are the lens that I look through.
Yeah.
Right? And so if I start getting angry or frustrated or confused, instead of just getting angrier and keep talking about it, I need to go, hold on, wait a second, time out. And really, when you can look in the mirror and go, am I just insecure and that's why I'm getting angry? Yeah. Am I offended that she's not remembering the good things that I did? Did she say this and it makes me feel not valued or respected and that's why I'm getting upset? And when we can really process our feelings, then the whole thing can start to stabilize.
Right.
And ladies, when you can really look in the mirror and go like, man, am I doing this right? Am I making the right choices? It helps us balance it.
Well, I love that because it's leading your family, men, is not just bringing them to church and leading them spiritually, but this is a great opportunity to lead your family when you're in the middle of an argument. And he does this to us. He'll say, hey, let's take a minute and go and reflect and see what we're feeling and then process it. Yeah. And I love that because that's how you lead. In the heat of the moment, you lead and say, let's go reflect what we're feeling and let's process it together. I love that.
Yeah, something last week that Rachel said, in the moment. And then later on our Sunday Shout Back on Facebook and on Instagram, people were saying this was one of their favorite things that she shared was she would said that women in the room often elbow their spouses, right? But when we're doing that, that's just our pride, not allowing us to listen to what God's telling us in the moment. Instead, we need to keep our elbows to ourselves and really take time to listen and be self-reflective. You know, pride is the thing in all relationships that we're actually fighting against. We think we're fighting against each other, but we're really fighting against pride and deciding to be selfless in the moment so that we can really be humble and move
And
forward.
us as men are paying attention. We don't need the elbow. We're paying attention. Promise. We're listening.
Yeah. You know, Matthew 7:3 says, "Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your eye?"
Wow.
Yeah.
So, you know, we need to ask, what am I being a little crazy here? Are the wires going bonkers in my head, you know? And understanding that we are a little crazy, right? But we have to be aware of our lens. And so what's the lens of the emotion that you're going through? What are you doing in the heat of it all that's causing you to react the way that you're doing? It's very important that you walk through it with humbleness, seeing what is it that's in you that needs to be fixed.
That's really good. And for us as men, we need to understand and look at the fact that a lot of times in life we see black and we see white, but emotion is red. It's a color that actually exists, and we need to accept that and understand that.
Right.
And so as we interact with our spouse, we need to understand that emotion is in play and it is involved, and we need to understand it. We need to recognize that.
Yeah.
We need to ask, am I being a one-box jerk? Am I just got one box out and not refusing to open up any other boxes in my catalog system?
Right.
Or maybe it's one of those times where you do have one box, you need to get more out.
Yeah.
Or you have too many out, you need to put some up. You've got to pay attention, listen to your wife, and understand what her needs are and what she's trying to say.
I think this idea we've unpacked, Rachel and I heard young in our marriage, the illustration that we heard was waffles and spaghetti.
Yeah.
That like waffles are segmented and spaghetti is all mixed together. And for a lot of years, I think we used that concept as a weapon against each other. And that's not why we're teaching this. We're teaching this to help understand so that you can get better. Right. So we would be in conflict and I'd say, you're just being spaghetti. And she'd say, well, you're just being a waffle.
Right.
Well, that didn't help us
That
any.
don't help us any.
And so we're not giving you this as a club. We're giving you this as a tool
Right.
to help grow. You know, growing up, something my dad would tell me is he'd say that maturity is being able to see something from someone else's perspective.
Yeah.
And when you can see your marriage from your wife's perspective or from your husband's perspective, that's maturity. And we all need to do our best to step into mature relationships.
For sure.
Yeah, you know, I think we're just scratching the surface of talking about emotions and feelings and thoughts. And our hope in this series is not that the wisdom or whatever it is that we're sharing today, that it would solve your marriage or it would solve the issues you've been having with your spouse or in your relationships, but instead that it would just spark a conversation.
Yeah.
You know, the reason we've been able to learn and grow together is through a lot of conversations and a lot of counseling. And our hope is that you would have some conversations, kind of understand where you're at, and then go, hey, maybe we do need to take that step to go deeper, go to some counseling and really help work out some issues in our relationship as we navigate our emotions. You know, another thing, as we've talked about conflict and handling our emotions, we've talked a lot about the words that we say to each other, that we say a lot of words and they maybe don't say as many, that we say words we shouldn't say, we say words we should say. There's a lot of words that we talk about when it comes to relationships. And so next week, we're gonna talk about words. We're gonna talk about the words we say and the words we should say to one another and how they can help kind of mold and shape our relationships as we go forward to have marriages and relationships that rock.